Rats. Persistent little buggers, aren't they? Yeah, I'll tell you a story about the house we live in. We rent it, and we've been here about 5 years. The day we moved in, the previous occupants had been gone a month, and they'd left the house spotless. There was no food in the kitchen, there was no rubbish in the yard, bins were emptied, furniture was gone, there was nothing. It was completely bare, spotless, clean. And I'm sitting in the kitchen looking out over the backyard, thinking, oh, what a fantastic, huge backyard we have. And then all of a sudden, I hear it. I can't really do a scratching sound, but you know what I mean. I heard scratching under the floorboards, and I was like, oh no. And it kind of ruined me for the house a bit. I was kind of a bit disappointed, but you know, we dealt with it. And the problem was, although the main house was built in the 1930s and the main structure of the house is pretty robust, the extension was built 70s, potentially early 80s, at a time when building regulations were a bit lax in Ireland, and there's no foundations. I think the bricks go down 2 or 3, about 6 inches. Under the floorboards in the kitchen, it's not concreted as it should be. And once we took some of the cupboards out to replace them, and we discovered that the floorboards under the covers don't go as far as the wall. They fitted them in. They're a few inches short and said that'll do. They know they're under the cupboards. No one cares. And the problem there is rats just love that kind of thing. It's somewhere for them to run around and nest. A lot of people assume that food and waste will bring rats in. It will, yes, but if you've got a structure that they want to that they find easy to live in, they'll come in as well, even if there isn't a lot of food or waste or anything for them to feed on. At the end of the day, they want somewhere nice to live, like any living creature. So yeah, growing up in the 80s in the UK, I was led to believe that rats were superstars. Rat me. That's my pathetic Roland Rat impression. Whatever happened to Roland Rat? Hopefully he got caught in a washing machine and something bad happened to him. Anyway, dealing with the rats, poison works well. We've never had a problem with poison. Put down a load of poison. We don't have a problem. We don't have any rat problem for a while. The problem with rats, poison is, and a lot of people from animal charities and nature charities and nature conservation people will tell you is, if a rat consumes poison, it's going to take a while before it dies. If a cat comes along or a dog comes along and eats it, they're going to get poisoned too. And also, I'd be particularly worried about the old lady who, she ate the mouse, the bird, the dog, and then the cat. Like if she's swallowing the mouse that's eating some of the poison, she's going to die too. Or if she's eating the cat that's eating the rat, she's going to die as well. So it's like, the nursery rhyme would have to be cut short. So anyway, so the alternatives to poison is mouse traps, rat traps, which we've had no luck at all with. And then there's these ultrasonic pest repellents. The theory of operation is simple. Humans, we can hear things from 20 hertz up to 20 kilohertz. Although in practice, most humans start to stop hearing things around 15 kilohertz. Some young people will continue to hear up to about 18, 19. And some exceptional people will hear up to the full 20 kilohertz. You may have heard of the mosquito ringtone, which is a tone that exists that goes out at 15 kilohertz. Because young people are more receptive to those frequencies, they hear it, but the adults don't. So it became an issue in some schools. So the papers tell us. And I kind of agree with this, because when I was preparing for this video, I actually got a test tone that went from 20 kilohertz up to 20 kilohertz. And I stopped here. It started at 20 kilohertz. And at 18, my son, who's 6 years old, was going, Daddy, what's that? Do you hear that? What's that? He kind of freaked out a bit. And it wasn't until about 14 or 15 when I started to hear it, so it makes me feel a bit old. But anyway, rats can continue to hear up to 80 or 90 kilohertz. So they can hear ultrasounds as if they were normal sounds. When you gently rub your fingers together, I guess, all we hear is a slight rustling. But if you had an ultrasonic microphone, you'd hear crackling and scratching, apparently. So if you did that next to a rat, it would be almost like the sound of us scrunching up plastic, or cellophane. It would be like a loud crunching, scratching sound. So the whole idea is that these emit an ultrasonic sound to annoy the rats. And it's a bit like when you hear of public libraries or public buildings or railway stations playing classical music to keep teenagers away. I suppose this is the rat equivalent. I've already taken the screws out to have a look at this. It's mains. I'm not going to go into the power distribution. There's a fuse there, which is nice. But yeah, I'm not interested in the power side of it. It is a nice, neat circuit board, which is good. I'm interested in the ultrasonic transducer. I've actually tried to look for a part number on this, and I can't find it. But just looking at it, it looks kind of weedy. It's like, what are you going to realistically get out of a plasticky ultrasonic transducer with probably a cheap metal diaphragm in there? Like according to the panel here, it says output 3 watts. Assuming that 3 watts is actually coming out of this, that would be 37 decibels, which, if you know your decibels, that's nothing really. 37 decibels in human sound range would be the sound of like someone reading a newspaper and turning the pages. It wouldn't bother you at all. So yeah, to be honest with you, I don't think this ain't going to annoy rats. There's this little switch on the side, which supposedly every once in a while, every couple of weeks, you're supposed to flip that switch, and that changes the frequency, or it changes the intensity, or it changes something, because supposedly the rats get used to the ultrasound and then like start to ignore it, which I suppose in a way is admitting that these things don't really work. I actually did a bit of research and read up on some papers, some academics wrote on this subject of electronic pest control, and they basically said, no, they don't work. You might get the rats to go away for a few minutes. If you're very lucky, they might go away for a day. But realistically, after a while, they get used to it and ignore it. Rats are resilient. They want to live somewhere. They want to be somewhere out of the bad weather. So of course they're going to put up with the sound. And like us, humans, we become very good at filtering out annoying sounds, annoying repetitive sounds. So I'm sure rats and other living creatures do the same. They also mentioned that if the intensity is high enough, you get more of an effect. But then if you go onto the likes of Deal Extreme or eBay, you'll actually see ultrasonic transducers pumping out 100 watts, and they're big chunky metal things. I'm sure they would probably have more of an effect. But even then, the research states they'll come back. They'll get used to it. So, to be honest with you, they don't work. They're rubbish. I don't want to use poison, but poison works. This was, I believe, €17 in Woodies, which is an Irish DIY chain. And a lot of DIY chains and pest control shops are trying to push these. Of course, they push these in conjunction with poison. Of course, that they're sort of doubling up on what they sell. Yeah, but don't waste your money. They don't work. So use poison or get a cat. That's what I would suggest. Or Jack Russell. Jack Russells love eating rats. But yeah. Rubbish.